Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the RunCam Eagle 3. Yes, we have a new Eagle. It weighs just under 8.5 grams, 19 millimeters for mounting, 20 millimeters from the back of the PCB to the lens. Looks like almost 24 millimeters from the lens to the connector. This is the 4.3 with 155 degrees field of view, and it can be powered from 5 to 36 volts. In the box, we have a mounting adapter for larger installations, a wiring harness, and some mounting screws, and a wiring map. This one has UART control, so you can control it from your radio. You will need to have a control cable like this to change settings on the camera. We march outside to do the customary light test that we've done on all the cameras to date. I first start with my cloth where I have it right against the lens and we pull it off real quick, and then we have it about 1.5 feet away to 2 feet away, and then I stretch my arm as far out as I can and I pull the cloth away a few more times so we can get that exposure change and how it handles that dramatic light changes with the sun directly in our lens. I go back into the garage and I get my cardboard out. Now, one commenter suggested I write something on the cardboard, something like subscribe, which I thought was a really ingenious idea, but I haven't done it. Maybe a cute message or a funny message. Thought about joke of the day as well, but we do this test the same way. It feels like this is more real life than using the cloth, and quite frankly, it's easier to handle than the cloth. And we set it down on the ground and we go for a fly around the neighborhood. We get to see all the colors, shapes, and sizes that we have available in my local neighborhood. As always, I am recording this on a RunCam DVR mounted directly inside the quad, so this is not with any sort of video interference or anything of that nature. So you may find, depending upon your goggles, that the coloration, the brightness, the saturation might be different from goggle to goggle, but this is one baseline that I can give you, and we're going to cruise around the neighborhood. I think there's something fairly interesting about this camera that comes at nighttime, but I don't want to spoil it. I want to get your kind of naked perception or opinion on that fact. So if you would stick around to the nighttime section, we'll only need to watch a minute or two of that in order for me to then talk about what I perceived and to see if you perceived it the same way. But I really thought the camera looked quite nice. The cameras that we have nowadays can be quite remarkable. You know, some cameras have gotten really light and really small, and other cameras, the image just keeps getting better. The light handling gets better. This, I feel, is very true to life color as far as what my eye perceives. And I didn't see too much digital shimmer. I do see a little bit when we look specifically in the trees, but we've seen much worse on other cameras. Also, you can pick up on that shimmer a little bit when we look at the shingles on the houses, but it's very subtle in my opinion compared to other cameras that we've seen. We also pull up to the neighbor's garage and we get to look at the garage doors, specifically the framing and the straight lines, to see if there's fisheye or lens distortion that you might need to view, that you might be sensitive with. That always seems to be a really good method for you guys to get your own eyes on how the lens handles straight lines. And we also get a lot of curvature around the neighborhood as well, especially with the sidewalk and the cul-de-sac. I often talk about my neighbors. In this case, I'm going to talk about the neighbors that were in front of their house now. They had a bunch of work done in the back. They had a truckload of those huge rolls of sod brought in, and we'll take a look at that as we go around the back side of the house. Well, we won't get in there too deep, but he and I were outside talking as they were unloading. There we go. Now we see all the grass, the sod that was added. So lots of water needed on there to get that to take up, but it looks pretty good. And he was pretty pleased with how it came out. So that's always good to know that someone's satisfied with what they hoped a project would be like versus what it actually ended up like when all the work was done. And you could see the tracks that run back down there from the implement they used to run these really big rolls of sod. We're going to continue to cruise around. You get to look at the clouds, the trees, the grass, the flowers, the houses, the cars. What else? The mailboxes, the stonework. We did see already the red of my neighbor's truck. That's something that I oftentimes like to stop and look at because different cameras seem to represent red differently. I think blue is another one, but we don't have the prevalency of the blue in the neighborhood. So we don't have that in this particular image. We have the blue of the sky, of course. And as I said, in my opinion, this blue does look pretty real to life, as well as the clouds and everything else. But we're going to continue to fly so you can get more of the daylight sample as we fly around the neighborhood. Really take this in. You may want to, by chance, as we fly in and out of shadows, maybe slow down the playback or even press the pause button to get a further diagnosis of this camera and how you perceive it to be handling the image that is presented on the DVR that I am showing here in this video. We do fly around the house. which isn't something I oftentimes do, but I finally got the VTX on this particular quad fixed, and I got it pumped up, and it's working properly. So while it was a little bit sketchy there from time to time, I was able to fly all the way around the house. And we're back to the outside of the neighborhood, and let's take a look at that nighttime footage. As we go outside, we're going to start right with the darkest part. For those that have been to the channel a number of times, I apologize. You've heard my dark spiel a number of times. I give the camera a quick wipe to make sure I don't have any extra humidity on the lens, but our neighborhood does not have any street lights. We only have house lights, which are mandated by the HOA. So our neighborhood is relatively dark, or I would say it's very dark. You would have much more light with street lamps. But this section over by the trash bins is so dark that it's one of those places where I have to watch my feet when I walk to make sure I don't step on anything, especially a little critter. And you could see those, you probably have to go back now in the video, but down in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, there was a couple of plants. I couldn't see those with my eyes. With my glasses as well. So that's the kind of dark that it is. We are going to go into the camera settings and change to black and white. This isn't a test I get much comments on, but it's something that I do, and you're going to see me shake it here in a moment to where I'm trying to check for that smearing or ghosting. That is something that we oftentimes see when we go into black and white, which could be something that you're looking at in a camera as well. And this is when we get closer to the flight footage. I'm going to set it down here in a moment, and then we're going to go for a fly. And that's what I want you to especially watch, that first minute of that footage, as we just kind of take a look, a more detailed look at how it presents in the darkness of some finer detail with looking at those plants and kind of scanning around the neighborhood a little bit as well. I think most of the things I do are well received. For those that do watch camera reviews, I know they're not as popular. I think some people are more discernible about they want a camera, and other people not so much. Okay, we jumped ahead. We're down on the ground. We're going to take off here in just a moment, and this is the part that I really want to get some additional opinions on. I don't know what I should say during this time, other than please watch and notice anything that you perceive. So of course, I don't fly around our neighborhood unless I feel pretty confident that the camera's doing pretty well at nighttime. I suspect most people, if you're flying your neighborhood at nighttime, you're probably doing cruising. I think if you're doing more aggressive flight, maybe some more freestyle or acro, you're probably doing it in a different place, like a large parking lot at, say, a shopping center or something that has those bright industrial lights, so you can get up above the lights. Or maybe you're at the edge of a city or something, and you're wanting to get some of that footage of the city in the background as maybe you do some of your tricks, your maneuvers, whatever it is that you fancy. But hopefully you've seen the first section of that. Now, my perception was after we got to flying a little bit that it got better somehow. Almost like, your eyes adjust when you have a bright light in your face and then the bright light goes away, how your eyes adjust. I felt that way in this camera too. And that's really why I wanted you all to watch in that first minute of this nighttime flying. At first, I wasn't super confident, but as I kind of just got around that first turn of the cul-de-sac, I became much more confident in my ability to see. And I thought that was a little bit strange to me. And I just want to see if you guys perceive it the same way. Don't let me influence you. If you missed that part, just go back and watch that first takeoff part of that nighttime footage and see if your perception is that it got better as well. Of course, we have all the blooms of the lights, and you get to discern whether those light blooms are a bad or a good thing, or exceptionally good or exceptionally bad, however you want to grade them out. Typically, when I show camera reviews, I just kind of show them to you, and then you get to grade them for your own purposes. If there's something that you note that's specifically one way or another, something you like or dislike, please leave it in that comment section. I think that's always something important to do. Manufacturers do come to the channel, and they do see those. Sometimes they even respond to comments. So at the very least, it's a way to be heard and what future products may be like. But I don't think we need to watch a whole lot more flight footage. We've got to see several minutes daytime, a minute or so there of nighttime. Let's go back to the desk. We'll take a look at the settings, and then we'll wrap up. As we look at the settings, I'm not going to narrate each one. You can see what's on screen. I'll just call out the fact that I used my hand in this fact because I thought that the lens cap that went on was a little bit cumbersome. It fits securely and tightly, which is a good thing, but just putting it on and off, it's a little bit more of a soft base lens cap, and that may be something that you like or dislike, but it was a little bit more to get it back on than normal with a lot of these lens caps. So I just use my hand, which I think makes the menu stand out. And I do like the fact they use blue to highlight our selection, and then they kind of change the outline. Instead of a black outline to a white lettering, they change it to a black lettering with a white outline as it highlights blue. One of the things that stood out to me about the camera settings is that there's apparently no OSD. You know, the OSD where you would usually see voltage and you'd have RunCam at the bottom and then you'd have the on time. This one apparently doesn't have that because I couldn't activate it. And normally when you get a camera, they have that on by default. I can't find any indication that it has its own internal OSD, and that could be an important fact for somebody. Maybe you're flying a fixed wing or something that doesn't have an OSD chip, and you do need to keep track of the battery that's powering whatever vehicle you're flying or driving this camera on. So that's something to keep note, is I don't think this has an OSD. If you've seen other videos of this and it's shown an OSD, as far as the camera OSD, I'm not really concerned with the flight controller or other purposes OSD. I'm talking about the onboard camera OSD that I previously described. Please let me know, because I use 2 different control cables, and typically when you press into the left or the right and you long press it, you'll get that camera OSD, but I did not in this case. So this camera should be widely available. You should find it at a lot of shops, and I'll put shops that I can find it at. I usually put like 4 or 5 different shops, and you can always support your shops with your dollar with those links down in the video description if you do want to buy one, or if you just want to go to the site to check the current pricing. As I see the pricing listed on RunCam's website, this camera comes in at $39.99. So not necessarily a cheap camera and not the most premium camera that we've ever seen as well. But camera pricing for the upper echelon of cameras tends to be somewhere between that $30 to $40 marker, and that's where this falls as well. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.